for the second day of our trip, we had an excursion. So we had a trip to Al Kolsh, and then we went to a Tizidi temple and a few other places. And so we had to wake up earlier on I believe it was a Saturday at this point, which is their Sunday because of the way the calendar works there. And so that was still some getting adjusted to as well. I was like, okay, we treat this day as our Sunday, even though it's a Saturday. But we woke up early and we took a van out to Al Kolsh. And I had heard really great things about Al Kolsh, and I was really excited to see what it looked like. So we drove, and the weather wasn't ideal. It was kind of rainy, but at least it wasn't super hot, which was good. I'm from Texas and I'm used to the heat, but it wasn't something I was ready to experience just yet. So then we left for Al Kolsh, and when we got there, I was just amazed at the beauty of this place. I was just overwhelmed by the sight of it. It was massive and it was expansive, and it was just really appealing to the eye. So when we got inside, we walked the grounds, and then we went to the chapel to pray. And then we got to see some relics of some of the saints that inhabited that area. It was really cool to learn the history of the monastery and how there used to be 500 priests that used to inhabit, or monks that used to inhabit it. But now it was down to a very small amount. But it was just really interesting to see that, because being in America, you don't really learn that kind of history. The history regarding the Middle East is very limited, so I enjoyed learning that. I thought it'd be valuable assets for me to know if I ever were to teach in Iraq, because I would like to know the history of the area. It started to rain and the ground was marble, and so several times I felt myself starting to slip. I was like, oh no, I gotta be careful. Thankfully I was all right. And then we hiked into the mountains and just got to see a nice overlook of the whole area. And it's interesting because I didn't know that this land was like inhabited by Abraham, and it is in a way the land of milk and honey. I did not know that, and so it was fascinating to me to see a place that had been in the Bible. And I just felt very close to God in that moment, realizing that I'm walking in the history of the greatest story ever told, the story of salvation. And that just hit me very deep, especially when I would go into the chapels and pray. I felt that. So that was amazing. Next, we went to a Tizidi temple, which is they're not Christian, but they believe they worship kind of like the earth in a way. And it was still downpouring, but you had to walk barefoot. And I was like, oh, are we really doing this? I noticed a lot there in my time in Iraq that I was pushed to be uncomfortable, which I am a huge fan of. I think it's a great way to grow. And so walking barefoot in the cold through the temple was definitely a moment that I felt uncomfortable, but looking back on it, it's a really great experience that I'm glad I had. So we got to walk the grounds, and we were led by someone who is a part of the order, and they took us to these rooms where we could see pots of olive oil, and we got to see sacred prayer rooms. And one cool unique thing I thought is that whenever you walk into a doorway, you're not allowed to step on the stone leading into the doorway unless the world ends according to the order. So we had to step over that. And even though it's not something I'm familiar with, I thought that was really fascinating to see how they uphold tradition there. But the grounds are beautiful. There was beautiful trees, and just the architecture of the overall temple was amazing, and I had never seen anything like it before. And so I really enjoyed that experience. Lastly, I forget the name of it, but we went to a place it was in the mountains and had a beautiful statue of Our Lady, and it was kind of like a city built into the mountains. And I thought it was really cool. From far away, as we were driving up these really windy roads, I could just see these beautiful buildings being built into this mountain, and something about it just seemed really sacred. And when we got to the top, it just overlooked again all the area, and I don't know, the sun had finally come out, the rain had stopped, and it was just a really empowering moment where I just really thought, okay, this is a beautiful country. And I kind of just started to think that how unfortunate it is in Western culture that we don't understand the true Iraq. Yes, of course, there are bad things in any country, but Iraq is depicted to be this place of hostility and not very beautiful. But standing up there, I was like, this is beautiful. This is stunning. And I wish this is what people could see of Iraq, because this is part of their culture. And it was amazing. And then we got to be taken back into the tunnels, and we got to see all these beautiful crosses, and we again got to see relics. And that was really amazing, and I'm really thankful for that experience. I think that out of all of the places we went to that day, I really enjoyed that. And then we were supposed to see the Prophet Naum. Unfortunately, it was closed. As I learned throughout my journey in Iraq, is that sometimes things don't work out the way you expect, and that's okay. It's a part of life, and that life in Iraq, especially working at Merkel Dock, is an experience of things constantly changing. And as someone who honestly, I think I do pretty well regarding change, just given my past experiences, I was like, okay, that's all right, just keep rolling with the punches. And then we started driving back to Erbil. Along the way we stopped for some food, and the food is a whole other video log I'll have to give you guys. But we had some kebab and just a bunch of dishes, and I am normally a very picky eater, but I knew coming to this trip that I'd have to change that, and I'd have to try new foods and be okay with it. And if you don't like a dish, that's okay, but to try different things. And I definitely did, and I was surprised myself by the foods that I liked. Unfortunately, that night a lot of us did feel a little sick from that place. I also heard that's a part of life there, and so it is what it is. But I'm very thankful for that day. I had a lot of fun, and I went back and I took a nice nap after that long day of travel. And so that was our second day.